That was brutal. There's no other way to put it. That was really, really hard to watch. Welcome on into this special live edition of Locked On Auburn. I'm Zach Blackerby. He is Darrell Dapprich. The Auburn Tigers lose in Florida, in Gainesville, as they have every time since 1996. 81-65, Darrell. And looking at this, I mean, we talked about potential downfalls at the end of our last show together. I didn't think it could have been as bad as it was today. I mean, there's just no other way to really put it.
Yeah, to wrap your head around this, I don't ever subscribe to the theory of it's a particular arena that causes you to have a jinx or a trend. It's just hard not to imagine this is what the 15th time in a row since 1996. Even the team 2 years ago, only they lost by one, but Florida was able to win that game. I don't know what it is. I will say this today, in watching this game, had nothing to do with jinxes or trends or curses or buildings. It was all about the players. And Auburn did some things that are really uncharacteristic. First of all, they turned it over way too much. They were horrible at the free throw line. Their first half shooting percentage was about as poor as you could get. Now, give them credit, in the second half, they did bounce back and shoot in the upper 40s, which was, better.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you couple that, Zach, with Florida shooting at about as good as now, is that a symptom of Auburn not guarding and defending like they're capable of, or Florida just having one of those games where you just chalk it up and say, you're going to have these once or twice a year. There ain't a dang thing you can do about it when the team is shooting like that. There were some contested shots that Florida made, but they also had a lot of wide open shots. And it wasn't just perimeters. It wasn't just three balls they were hitting, Zach. They were driving to the basket. They were getting offensive tips. It was just, it ran the gamut of every way. They beat Auburn in the paint, points in the paint. They shot a scorching percentage from three. All that adds up to the fact that Auburn turned it over, did not shoot it well themselves in the first half, and they lose 15. And they were down, 18 at halftime? So,
yeah, I mean, it felt like so much more.
Well, at one point it got to 29. So I don't know.
That's really what it felt like. Like from start to finish, like it felt like Auburn lost.
You have no answers for a game like this, but you can look at indicators and you can look at symptoms. And I think when Bruce Pearl and Stephen Pearl and whoever scouted this game, they probably they're shaking their heads right now. When they look at the stats and they look at analytics, they can say, guys, you really can't help when a team shoots it the way Florida does. I mean, unless they see something on film that Auburn wasn't switching or they were over rotating on defense, they were whatever. It's hard. It's very hard. Auburn could have played really well, limited the turnovers, been 80% from the free throw line, and they still would have got beat with the way Florida shot it. But there are some things they can clean up. And that is, you cannot turn it over the way they did. That was pathetic. That was embarrassing, lazy basketball. And the way they guarded the interior was just not Auburn-like.
Yeah, I mean, every time there was a stretch there last 10 minutes or so of the first half where it's like every pass, it's like, that's about to get turned over. Like, who's he throwing it to? What are they thinking?
Yeah.
And Darrell, I don't know if this was a coaching thing in the sense of like, you knew there was going to be a possibility for an emotional letdown after the Bama game on Wednesday. Like we talked about that being a possibility at the end of our last live show. I don't know if it was the travel. I don't know if it was, I mean, I want to give Florida credit because I think they played well and they were off during the week. And sometimes that can help you. Sometimes that can hurt you. I can't imagine that was a factor. And so I want to be careful when I say this but I do think the total outcome and the total point differential of this game was more about Auburn than Florida. And once again, Florida played well, but our guys just did some weird stuff. I mean, can't hold on to the basketball. I don't know who you were passing it to. Weird shot selection. It just, none of it looked right. And at some point, I think that's more on the coaching staff. I mean, it's clear Auburn wasn't ready for this game.
No, that's a problem. I mean, you would think that when you're fighting for first place in the SEC. Now, granted, again, people in the comments and in the live chat, almost comical. I mean, just get away from the computer if some of those things you're saying, if you really believe that. Basketball is not football. You're playing 36 games, and you're probably going to have 3 or 4 of these a year where it just doesn't go your way. It doesn't. Okay. Auburn got beat by 40 at Rupp in the year they went to the Final Four. So I'm not making excuses. I'm saying reality is that in a vacuum, in the moment, it looks horrible. But when you look at the whole season, you're going to have these games. I get what you're saying about it being about Auburn. But again, I'm going to wait till the end of the year or even in the next couple of weeks and keep an eye on Florida's stat sheet and see if they ever shoot the basketball as well as they did tonight. Because I'm here to tell you, I don't care if it was Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina. If you go into the O'Connell Center and Florida plays and shoots it like they did tonight, it's going to be hard for any team to come out of there with a win. Now, again, is that a symptom of Auburn being lazy defensively, turning it over? So Florida got a lot of transition baskets, which are obviously high percentage field goals when you lay it up. I don't know. But I do know I saw a lot of step back threes and a lot of, offensive rebounds and tips, which surprised me that Auburn didn't box out. And look, Jalen Williams has got to show up on the road. We've talked about that. And when we threw out that whole hypothetical, what happens if a team takes away Broome and Williams at the same time and the front court doesn't perform? Well, that's what we saw. We saw the guards for Auburn not picking up the slack. Katie Johnson was the only guard that played worth a flip. The starting backcourt for Auburn at halftime had 2 points. 2 points. And Aiden Holloway off the bench had 0. You will not win basketball games against equitable or better opponents or in the postseason if you don't start getting better guard play, because sooner or later you can't expect your front court to be Superman. And that's another thing that happened today.
Yeah. Aiden Holloway 0 for 5 from the floor. Can't do that, especially when this age of college basketball, college athletics, but specifically college basketball, like where the amount of high school guys you take is less because of the transfer portal. And Bruce has talked about this on this very show, how it's changed, how he's gone about approaching his roster. Go out and get the proven guys at smaller levels of basketball and bring them in, unless you are an absolute stud from the high school ranks. And Aiden checked every box, but so far he has underachieved in my eyes. I don't want to speak for you. You're nodding. Yeah. So we both agree Aiden Holloway has underachieved so far during his time at Auburn. How do you fix that? I don't know. I don't know if you can at this point. Maybe he comes back next year and he's more effective. But right now, you've got to give as many minutes as possible to Trey Donaldson at the one. I think we're to that point.
I wanted to wait until the season got more than halfway over before I made some kind of declaration on that. I am legitimately concerned about Aiden Holloway. And I can honestly say that he has not measured up to what Auburn thought they were getting at the point guard position. He has regressed, and he's nowhere near the player he was the first 10 games. And that is concerning when you start going down the stretch, because you're going to need guard play. So either Trey Donaldson has to just emerge and be that dude and really just have a lion's share, play 26, 27 minutes and start to be a double-double type point guard, because Holloway has disappeared. And it's concerning. I'm not here to call him a bust or anything like that. I just think he's hit a freshman wall. He's very talented. He looked better to me shooting the basketball at the first of the year. It's not. He has regressed, and it's concerning. It really is.
It is concerning, and to the point now where it's like, what do you do with the guard position? You've got some talented guys coming in from the high school ranks. And there's almost going to be too many guards. So it kind of makes you wonder if internally a decision is going to have to be made at point guard. And so we'll see what that looks like this offseason. But moving forward, I think you got to give as many minutes as possible to Trey Donaldson. I think he is the best guy to take the ball down the floor. I trust him the most of all the guards on the team from a shooting perspective as well, just because I think he's the smartest basketball IQ of all the guards right now. And I think he's the best passer on the team. I mean, I think you need to do more with Trey Donaldson right now. And I mean, he wasn't great shooting tonight. 0 for 3 for 3, 2 of 5 from the floor. He only scored 4 points, and you need more out of him too. And I'm sure he'd be comfortable saying that. But I mean, just the guard play overall was atrocious. And we talked about this after the Alabama win. It's like, man, if Jalen Williams and Janai Broome can play like this every time, like, is this what Auburn's going to do offensively moving forward? And you added the caveat, and I agreed. And we saw this play out just now where I think they'll do it when they can. And fortunately, it's going to work against most teams in the SEC. But for whatever reason, Florida's bigs, it doesn't matter if we have future NBA players down low, Florida's bigs have always pushed our guys around, and we just let them do it. We just let them do it, Darrell.
Remember when we talked about how there's certain coaches that may be able to scheme a defensive game plan where they take Jay Will and Broome out of the game? Well, Todd Golden knows BP very, very well. There is a very, very familiar relationship between Todd Golden and Stephen Pearl and Bruce Pearl, but that should go both ways. Bruce Pearl should know Todd Golden's system very well too, and what he's going to try to do to counter that. Again, I'm not here to say it's coaching because I saw Auburn. You can't. Coaching's not turning the ball over. I can buy the argument about rotations, starting lineups, the amount of minutes somebody gets. That's coaching. But when you're missing wide open threes and you're having poor shot selection, where it only becomes coaching then is if you leave that same dude in at some point. The same guys that are killing you, if you leave them on the floor, then it is coaching. But, you know, what do you do with Aiden Holloway? Do you jerk him and pull his confidence and make it like a Westry thing? I don't know. But I think at some point you've got to find a way to utilize him when maybe the game is a little bit more in control or out of hand and he can just gain some confidence. But look, coaching, Auburn kept hitting shooting threes early in the game, but they were wide open threes. They weren't bad shots. Sure. But still, if you miss 6 out of 7, at some point, you're probably like, it just ain't falling. Let's go do something different.
Yeah. And look, everybody's upset about the road stuff. And look, I get it, but everybody's worse on the road. Sorry.
Everybody.
Like, Auburn's not special in that regard. I know Auburn fans want to like just look at Auburn and act like it doesn't apply to everybody else, but that's not the way it works. And fortunately, Auburn's elite at home, and most teams aren't elite at home like Auburn is. So I get the frustration. And this loss stinks on multiple levels. I mean, you're probably out of winning the SEC regular season. Now, like, you really need help from other teams in order for that to happen. And that stinks. That is a total bummer. But some of the things that are being said right now are just dumb. Like, so dumb. So just it's okay. It's okay. You can have a bad loss and your season still be in front of you. Like, both of those things can happen. And look, Auburn started playing their best ball after losing 2 games in a row. Now, is that going to happen moving forward? No clue. But fortunately, over the next few games, Auburn has 2 major games coming up. And thank goodness they're at home, Darrell. So all the folks acting like the sky is falling because Auburn can't win consistently on the road, that's not even like a valid argument right now. It's not even like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, now, if they lose in Athens in 3 games, that's a big deal. They lose it to Tennessee and Knoxville in 4 games, kind of all expecting that at this point, right? Like, are you picking them to win in Tennessee? I'm not. I can't imagine most people are. And then you get Mississippi State at home after playing. So, I mean, I get being upset. And I hate that this game went the way that it did today. I really do. So, you lose today. You get South Carolina and Kentucky at home. And if you win both of those, you're in a really good spot. You're a top 3 team in the SEC, right? We're on the same page here so far? Yep. You go to Athens to play Georgia. Georgia stinks. If you lose that one, I get it. I get being upset about that. I don't think they're going to lose in Georgia. I do think they're going to lose in Knoxville. But then you host Mississippi State. You know they're going to want that one back. You know that's going to be a revenge game. Feel very good, and it's at home. You go to Columbia. I don't think Missouri's won a conference game yet. Unless they won one today, they have not won a conference game. Feel good about that one. And then you host Georgia, which 1, you're hosting them, 2, they stink. So unless I'm just missing something, Darrell, and please call me out if I'm bugging too hard here. But like, Auburn's going to be okay. And Auburn's going to finish as a top 3 team in the SEC. They're going to get a double bye. They won't play in the SEC tournament till Friday. It's going to be okay.
All right, so I'm going to speak some truth right here. And anybody that doesn't want to hear it and wants to be doom and gloom and wants to some of the stuff we're seeing, they may want to just step away from the computer because I'm going to hurt their feelings because I'm going to speak some truth. It's going to be, first of all, I felt like after Auburn beat Alabama Wednesday night, Auburn would lose 2 more games and was okay with that. Was not like the sky is falling. So anybody that thinks that wasn't going to happen isn't being realistic. The scenario you just laid out right now has Auburn losing 1 more game in the conference and finishing 14-4. I will take that. Period. Is that going to be enough to win the conference? Maybe, maybe not. But 14-4 in this league and maybe only losing 1 more game at Tennessee, relax. People need to chill and understand that. Second of all, a very good, elite, top 4 Kansas team went on the road this week and lost to their arch rival on the road. Is the sky falling in Lawrence, Kansas? Do they suck? Does Bill Self need to be fired and doesn't know basketball? No, because their fans know ball. We want to act like we're a blue blood school and we're a basketball school, then our fans need to start acting like it as well and understand and not be ignorant and make ignorant comments. Understand the whole totality of college basketball. It happens. It happens to Arizona. It happens to Kentucky. Heck, North Carolina lost at home to Clemson this week. Are they horrible? Are they not? I mean, do their fans say, oh, we suck, Duke has our number? No. It's just relax and get off the ledge and understand the whole totality of the season, okay? And the third thing, and here's the best thing, lean in, boys and girls, and listen closely what I'm going to say here. I know that it's tough to win on the road, and I know Auburn has struggled on the road, but thank God when you get to the NCAA tournament, you don't play on the road. You play at a neutral floor. And Auburn has played well on a neutral floor except to the loss to Baylor. This year, it's a completely different thing. So, people that are making comments, some that are that are, masked as Auburn fans that really aren't, and they're fans from other teams. That's great. Have fun. Thank you for the clicks and the views. We appreciate it. But the bottom line is teams struggle on the road, even elite blue blood teams. And if we want to be a basketball school or basketball knowledge fans, we have to start acting like it and understand that this happens. And again, the scenario you laid out is very realistic. It's not pie in the sky. Auburn could end up losing 1 more SEC game and being 14-4. And if you told me at the beginning of the year that Auburn was going to win 24, 25 games and be 14-4 in the SEC, I'd take it all day long. People need to understand that.
Yeah, and I would have taken 13-5. Right? Like, so even if people are saying we're not going to go 6-1, it's like, okay, go 5-2. That's still like, you're not really helping yourself when you say that. So, all right, for folks saying they're going to lose 3 more, like, what are the 3 losses? Like, I'm genuinely curious, like, where are the 3 losses that are left? Do you think they drop Kentucky and South Carolina? Like, is that, like, you think they're about to lose 2 straight at home? I'm genuinely curious for the folks that are saying what we're saying isn't possible. Like, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So, all right. Normally I do player of the game stuff here, but I don't really want to do that. So how many games are there left? 7? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. All right. Auburn's record over the final 7 games. Drop that in the live chat if you don't mind. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Alumni Hall. Alumni Hall is the best place to buy all of your Auburn swag. Darrell, you love Alumni Hall. I love Alumni Hall. They've got 3 great locations in Auburn, Opelika, and Huntsville. Be sure to check them out there. And if you can't, or just don't want to, go to alumnihall.com. They've got even greater selection, of course, on their website. So alumnihall.com, or check them out in Auburn, Opelika, and in Huntsville. So a lot of people saying 6-1, 5-2, a few 2-5s, which isn't real. Like, that's just not a real thing. Once again, I get the frustration. I just don't see it. I just don't see a collapse coming from this team. And it could happen. It could happen.
Sure, it could. But so could them going 6-1 could happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, show me anything. Show me the proof or the variables that tell you that this Auburn basketball team is going to go 2-5 down the stretch. I want the proof. Where is it? Where's the evidence? What's the prior things that have happened this year that lead you to believe that. I think Auburn, after losing 2 in a row, bounced back and won 3 in a row, and I suspect and expect them to win 3 in a row after this loss. And it's going to be a completely different – there's going to be a lot of people that are in this chat right now that I suspect that pull for other teams that won't be in here next Saturday night after Auburn comes off probably winning 2 in a row. Now, is that going to happen? Absolutely. No. I mean, anything can happen. Kentucky can come in here and shoot lights out. South Carolina's tied for first. So, but again, what's more than likely to happen is Auburn go 5-2 down the stretch than 2-5. And that's real talk. Anything crazy could happen, but that's what the data and the evidence to this point shows should happen. And if they go 6-1, man, you go 6-1 at the end of this stretch, you'll be a top 8 team. You'll be a 3 seed probably in the NCAA tournament. I mean, there's a lot left to play for, and there's a lot that could happen even in the SEC tournament. We're talking about a top 2 or 3 basketball team in the SEC that's won 19 basketball games. That's top 10 in a lot of Ken Pom variables. So I would just pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. South Carolina, the number 1 team in the SEC right now, lost on the road to Bama 74-47. I mean, that's the sport. That's the sport that we're talking about. So.
Let's address a comment real quick. Pull up Ken Stock's comment because he's asking a question specifically. Ken Stock, if you would, it's right there. There we go. So let me address that question, saying that Auburn consistently looks like freaking kindergartners every single time it matters most. Let's not be emotional. Let's be rational and talk about this. The last week of the season before this game against Florida were the 2 biggest games that I feel like Auburn had. At Ole Miss and at home against your arch rival for first place. First place was on the line last Wednesday night. Okay, after you already dropped one to Alabama. 2 biggest games of the year, and Auburn smoked both teams. So tell me where they look like kindergartners last week, and tell me those games didn't matter. I don't get that. Do you, Zach? I mean, I don't understand. Don't you think those games mattered? Up until this game tonight, those were the 2 biggest games of the year, in my opinion. And a lot of people were saying that, not just us.
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody was wondering how Auburn was going to respond to losing those 2 losses to Alabama and to Mississippi State, both back-to-back. They killed Vandy at home. It's like, okay, great, but we need more. So they go to Ole Miss, and the way they responded in the second half against Ole Miss was electric. And then, obviously what they did against Alabama on Wednesday was great. So,
And look, it doesn't matter. I mean, everyone's really, I get it. They're emotional. Everyone can have their opinion.
Ken Stock is responding to you. He says, on the road, I meant. But still, like.
Okay, Ole Miss was on the road.
Yeah, the last time they played a road game was we were rejoicing. So I'm not fully...
Again, anybody that wants to push back and keep coming back with negativity, they just go ahead. Nothing that we say or no reality is going to stop that. You have that in your mind already. You're going to be negative. You're going to find something to complain about. That's your right. I get it. But the reality and some of the metrics say differently. I guess you expected at this point of the season Auburn to be undefeated or lost 1 game. I get it. That's fine. Live in that reality then. Nothing we can say to change that.
Yeah, it's okay to be frustrated. I'm frustrated. That stinks. That was hard to watch the whole time. Whenever Auburn plays in games like that, it's like, I do not want to do a show talking about them playing this, but it's the fact of the matter is like that. I mean, we hate talking about them losing by what should have been 30 points, but those guys are in the locker room. They don't want to have to be in that kind of outcome either. So,
and let me say this, I will be the first one to get in line if this becomes a trend. Okay, look, realistically, if this becomes a trend and it's not a one-off and Auburn loses Wednesday night and then Kentucky, absolutely, then it completely changes the narrative and you go, okay, they're not winning big games, they're choking, they're not, then there's a lot to be worried about. Let's wait until it becomes a trend. And it becomes, if it does, and it starts to get stacked.
Yeah. So let's see how they responded. Last time they lost a rough game.
They responded with a pretty impressive streak. We need that to happen this week. So Auburn needs to take down South Carolina, Kentucky, stay undefeated at home. And if they do that, they're going to be okay. They're not going to win the SEC regular season at this point. They would need a lot to happen. And it's not out of the question. It's mathematically possible, but I just don't see Alabama falling apart right now. We'll see.
They still got a tough part of their schedule coming up too. There's a stretch. And I'm going to say this. Somebody earlier in the chat asked, hey guys, is there anything positive that we can take away from this game? And I want to be that guy and not just 100% be pissed about this game. I believe that Chaney Johnson played well tonight and showed me some things with the way he battled and he played back. He did some things tonight that gave me a little bit of hope. If he can sustain that and stack some games like this, I don't know. Did he end up with double figures offensively?
He was 3 for 4 for 9 points. He had 10 rebounds.
Yeah, I thought he played well and showed me some flashes tonight. So we're not going to have a player in the game when it's that putrid of a performance. But if there was one bright spot that I looked and said, wow, he's playing better. And, I'm looking at him.
It'd probably be him.
It'd be him. Yeah.
It'd probably be him.
And War Eagle Wyoming makes a great point. The Johnson brothers in general, Katie and Chaney, both to me.
Nice.
Played well tonight and give them credit. No players.
I think Janai was okay. He just wasn't what we need him to be for.
He got double, and he's got bigs. Those bigs, they run 3 bigs at you. Samuel and the other 2 guys that they keep running them at you. You got double teamed a lot. Left J. Will open. J. Will didn't execute. That we said that could happen if people started doubling Janai, and they did, and they just kept running big after big after big at him. So,
Yep. Ken Stock, you're good, man. You're good.
Oh yeah,
we just wanted to use your comment for
because
something.
it was a
Thank
good.
You for, watching
yes, it was a good
conversation.
It was a good point. It was a good conversation. We weren't. I wasn't a call out. It was like, this is legitimate, and this is a concern that probably a lot of people have.
Yep.
And I think it needed to be debated. That's all.
Yep.
Good comment.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. You're in here a lot. We appreciate it.
Yes.
So, wow. Okay. That was, we're 30 minutes in. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
You can follow me at X DAP6410. I'm on with you Wednesdays and Fridays, and then Monday mornings and Tuesday afternoons on various shows on the Auburn Network.
Yes. Be sure to like the video. You can like the video. You don't have to like the content today because that was tough. That was a tough one.
It was hard.
Tough one.
But it's all right.
But 2 huge games this week, and of course, we'll be live after both of them. And thankfully, South Carolina's at 7:30, not 8. I don't know why that's on at 6, but thanks, SEC. Really appreciate that. So yeah, be sure to check that out. We'll go live after that as well. So cool. Be sure to read all of our written content at auburndaily.com, and we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.